up, guys? Malia J here, and we're back with another video. So today we're going to be talking about spiritual loneliness. I just really wanted to talk about how lonely it can feel when you begin to or when you are experiencing a spiritual awakening. Like, just imagine trying to tell someone who's not experiencing what you're experiencing that, you know, a lot of our food is poisoned and there are certain chemicals put in our water which block the pineal gland, and that the world is actually being controlled by certain people who's putting certain problems in place to create division, and that there's different levels of dimensions, and that you can become a more high vibrational person, and trying to explain what high vibrational mean and different frequencies, and how certain things that have been taught to us are not even real, or that's not even how they work, and how certain words don't even mean what we think they mean, and they have an alternate meaning, and how everything is just a distraction from a larger goal and plan, and how we all should become as one and vibrate on the love frequency. Just imagine trying to explain all of those things to someone who is not woke. And I don't like to necessarily use that word so much now, because so many people are using it in a way that I wouldn't necessarily agree with. But just imagine trying to explain that to your closest friends that you've been friends with for the longest, or your family even, explaining something like that, or trying to have conversations like that, and they look at you with this stare like you're insane, or they want to put you in a mental hospital, like you don't make any sense, like you're going off the deep end. They look genuinely concerned or confused, and they think that you're confused, and they look at you like you have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, it's just pretty lonely, because it feels like you're going insane, but you're not. I'm here to tell you that you're not. And there's multiple people in the spiritual community that have had the same exact or similar experiences. So you're not going crazy. You're just beginning to step into who you are meant to be. You're figuring out things for yourself. You're now finding and creating the version of yourself that you truly want to be, and not what you were programmed to be. I think that eventually on your spiritual journey, it'll get to a point in time where you won't feel lonely. You will actually enjoy your own comfort. You will actually enjoy that time alone, because during your spiritual awakening process, you are learning new information. And while that information may seem scary at first, it may actually be some exciting and good news, good things that you're finding out about yourself and about the world. During that time alone for your spiritual awakening, will feel lonely. It will feel like your brain is about to burst. And you may even want to cry when you come to realize certain things about our world, and about the things that are really truly going on. I personally, speaking from personal experience, understand that feeling wholeheartedly, because I want to say about 6 months or longer ago, I physically cried about the information that I learned. And some people who aren't having a spiritual awakening may not understand. And they may truly look at you like you're insane, or feel like you're overreacting based off information that they're not wary of, or they can't comprehend. And what I had to realize was that I have to let this go. I have to accept how I'm feeling about things. And I think that's what you have to do when you're having a spiritual awakening, and when you're feeling lonely or sad, because it's a lot. It's a lot of shit going on. It's a lot of information to learn, and it kind of hits you, because when you've been programmed and raised a certain way for so long based on other people's ideals and beliefs and information they've been told, and now you're just coming into your own and trying to figure out life for yourself, and coming to a realization that all of that was a lie. It's a lot on a person, and it really, 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 I think messes with you mentally because you go through a period of not knowing what is real and what is fake, what is for me and what is not. And it kind of scares you depending on the information that you are learning. But eventually, as time goes on and you begin to vibrate at a higher level of frequency and you increase your consciousness and the way you think and the things that you do in life and realize that you are more than this vessel, you begin to kind of come to some sort of acceptance. You begin to accept things for what they are while trying to still change your life and those around you lives for the better. And I feel like during that process, it's like, okay, I'm not I'm not sad anymore. You get to a point where you're not sad anymore. You get to a point where you don't feel alone, shall I say. You don't feel like the world is such a bad place. It's like, okay, you have to go through that period of thinking that the world is so horrible until you eventually get to a point and realize that it's not the world itself or the universe itself that is horrible, but the people that operate in it, but the people that want to destroy it for their own greed and benefit. And then you realize that you are more than this vessel, and so that this vessel doesn't mean anything because you are a high vibrational spiritual being and you are able to create the life that you want to create and live the life that you want to live. And once you start taking steps towards that, things do get better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to make it through the tunnel. You have to persevere. You have to go through that period of loneliness and no one understanding you. Sometimes you can't always, or most of the times during your spiritual awakening and when you become a spiritual person, you won't be able to talk to certain people about certain things because it may make them uncomfortable. And that's where I think acceptance plays a big role, because you have to accept that that person or persons is not ready for the information that you have. Some people are not on the same vibrational frequency as you. So even if they wanted to understand your way of thinking or your way of perceiving and looking at the world and the information that you have been so fortunate to get, they may not even be able to understand that because it's not their time. They're not on that frequency. Sometimes you have to realize that the people that you're trying to explain certain information to are not vibrating on the same frequency as you. So even if they wanted to understand or see how you perceive the world or think about the world like you do, they won't be able to because either they're not willing to or they're not able to, just because their consciousness is not on the same vibrational frequency as you. And you have to accept that. And those people may just be the most important people in your life. Some people have to stay where they are because that's where they're meant to be. And some people will choose ignorance because that's what makes them happy. And you have to be a person to where you're willing to accept it. Acceptance is one of the keys to unlocking the kingdom of inner peace, I want to say. And I'm not saying that acceptance is something that's going to be easy, because coming from personal experience, and it's something that I'm still dealing with, I want to wake up so many people per se. I want to tell people certain information. And sometimes I have to catch myself and be like, okay, this person's staring at me weird. Let me stop it here. They're not meant to understand what I'm trying to tell them, or they're not willing to understand. And so it's a means to an end to try and sit here and get them to see something that they don't see. And it's something my uncle told me once, is that you can't force people to see what they don't see. You can't force them to do that. Either they see something wrong or they don't. And if they don't see anything wrong, it's going to be very hard for you to explain or show them if they truly, truly don't see a problem. If they truly, truly don't see a problem in a certain situation or whatever it is that you're trying to show them is the problem, if they can't see the problem, they can't see it. And so you trying to explain it to them is just going to confuse them. They may think you don't make they may think that you don't make sense. And so it creates that loneliness feeling that you feel because you're not able to really truly talk to anyone. But that goes back to like what I said, being the fact that once you get to a certain level in your spiritual journey, eventually you will enjoy your time alone. You will revel in it because you are able to have fun with your own ideas, and you're able to create the person that you want to create and become the best person that you want to be for yourself. You will begin to feel whole no matter if 20 people are around or no one is around. Regardless of who is around you, you will always feel whole. So even if you're a person who's experiencing loneliness right now in your spiritual journey, you will eventually get to a level of being that feels whole no matter what. You will feel whole even if you are alone. You just have to keep going and persevering through. Eventually you'll get to even a better point in life where if you're truly a person who wants to actually make friends and have friends, then you will have them. You will get to a point in your life where you'll start attracting the people that are meant to be in your life. That means that you will have to lose the people that are in your life currently. Maybe you will have to lose your closest friends. Maybe you will have to lose or pull away from your family because those people are not contributing to your growth. And so you will eventually attract those people who will become like family. You will attract those people who are supposed to be your friends, who are contributing to your growth. Those people who are meant to be around you will eventually be around you. And I want to say that eventually you'll get to a point where the people that are meant to be in your life will be in your life. The people that are not going to judge you, but are actually contributing to your growth as a consciousness. And you just have to get through this period of time where things are scary and you're unsure of things, and make it through this period of time, because it does get a little rocky. It can be like a deep hole, but you have to be strong enough to not allow yourself to go down that negative wormhole. When you're having a spiritual awakening, you have to be the one to take the initiative to persevere through, to not allow yourself to go down that negative spiral, and to choose to be a high vibrational being, or choose to attain that goal of becoming a high vibrational being, to being the best version of yourself. Something else that I was thinking about recently is that when people have a spiritual awakening, often, or people on a spiritual journey often feel like they can't be friends or communicate with those who are still asleep, with those who are still perceiving the world and doing things based off the way that they were programmed to do them. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that once you get to a certain level of consciousness, or shall I say a certain level of thinking, and a way that you're trying to basically, if you're aiming to become a high vibrational loving being and vibrate on a high frequency, you have to learn to sometimes accept people for how they come. And I'm not saying you have to be friends with or associate yourself with people who vibrate on a low frequency or hate frequency, such as homophobic people or racist people. That, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the people who are still asleep but have their own beliefs, and it doesn't align with the beliefs that you have. Like, let's say you have a friend that is religious, but you are not. But that friend is willing to accept you for how you are, and you are willing to accept that friend for how they are. And you both may have different beliefs, but you both are good people. You accept people for how they come. You vibrate on a love frequency, and you're able to just be nice and kind to one another. Then I think there's no problem with having friends who have different beliefs than you. I think there's no problem with being friends with people who do not believe the same thing as you do. I think there's no problem with having friends who don't believe the same thing that you do. I think it's okay to have friends who are not a part of the spiritual journey experience or the awakened community. Some people are meant to be asleep, but they may have a good heart. And if they have a good heart and there's potentially a room for a friendship to be made, then I think those of us who do go through this awakening process should be willing to make friends with whomever is willing to accept us and us them. You have to, I think the key to one of the keys, because there's many keys to becoming a high vibrational being, is to learn to start accepting people no matter what their beliefs are, as long as they are a kind, loving person, as long as they're good to you and you're good to them and they're good to others. If they're a good person, what they believe shouldn't necessarily matter. One thing I'm learning about this world that we live in is that we're all not going to believe the same things. It's 8 billion of us on the planet, 8 billion different personalities and consciousnesses. And that may not be a word, but 8 billion people and 8 billion different minds. So we're all put here to experience the human experience, right? So we're experiencing things at a different level and at a different pace than each other. So we're not always going to come to the same conclusions at the same time. And we're not always going to have the same beliefs at the same time. So even if we don't have the same beliefs, that does not mean that we cannot have a great friendship. That does not mean that we can't do good together. It just takes probably some work to work around it, or to just be able to be yourselves and accept each other for how you come. I think that if you're still a person on a spiritual journey and you're still judging people based off their beliefs, I feel like that's more of an ego talking, and we're trying to overcome the ego. That ego that says, oh, I'm better than them because I know more than them. That's not very high vibrational thinking. Although you may have more knowledge than them or more power than a person, that does not necessarily mean it's right for you to think you're better than them. I think that's a low vibrational thought. And I think that that's something that we should release in if we're trying to be high vibrational. I think that if you close yourself off to the possibility of making friendships with people just because they don't believe what you believe, is potentially another way to close yourself into experiencing a lonely spiritual journey, because you're not willing to conversate with other people. And that's something that religious people do, you know? That's something that we get from religion, like the church. If we believe in a certain religion and this other person has another religion that collides with ours, we're not going to want to associate with them people because we think they're not the chosen ones, or they're not meant to talk to us because they don't believe what we believe. And you're a spiritual person and you're on a spiritual journey, then you will understand that that's not a great way of thinking. That's a way to create even more division. That's not vibrating at a love frequency. You're separating yourself, when in truth, what matters is what kind of person are they? What are they trying to do in this world? What are they trying to do for themselves and those around them? Is there a potential for this friendship to blossom and bloom into something that will help the both of you or will help the world? And I think that's what truly matters, not so much their belief system, long as it's not a belief system of hate, of low vibrational, negative thinking, you know? And there are people out there like that. Like, speaking from personal experience, I'm a spiritual person, yes, but I do have religious friends, per se. Well, I'm making some, and they're pretty cool. They're pretty nice. And, you know, we have our own thoughts and beliefs on things, but I'm learning to accept their way of thinking for their way of thinking, even if I think it's wrong. And they're doing the same for me. Just because we think someone's wrong doesn't necessarily mean we're right. And just because they think we're wrong don't mean we're right. It's just our own different perceptions on life and on things. And so we have to learn to accept it and stop resisting it. And I think that will be able, that is the key to creating a beautiful friendship, when you stop resisting their beliefs and accepting it for what it is. So I feel like if it's a true friendship, then to me, that person will be able to listen to you with an open heart and still come to their own conclusions, rather than judge you harshly and shut you down and make you feel like you're cuckoo. I say all this to say you're not crazy if you're going through your spiritual awakening now. A lot of us are. A lot of the information that they want to call a conspiracy theory, or that they're saying is insane and that it doesn't make sense, I'm here to tell you that continue putting the pieces together, continue getting your facts, continue reading, continue learning, continue watching, continue growing, because if 2 plus 2 equals 4, then it equals 4. If it makes sense, it makes sense. Stop trying to explain yourself to people that are not meant to understand. Allow people to be themselves and realize that your conversations and your way of thinking and your perception of the world is not always meant to be shared with some people, including your family or your friends. Those that are meant to be in your life will be in your life. Learn to accept people for how they come. And if someone is willing to accept you for you and you for them, even if you have different beliefs, then by all means, make that friendship a good one. Continue to learn and grow, and don't allow someone to control your perceptions on life. Come to your own conclusions about life. And I want you to realize that if you ever feel alone, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm willing to make new friends, have conversations, build a community. And there's also a bunch of different communities here on YouTube that are willing to have a conversation with you. I know how nice it is to have conversations with people that have like-minded thinking. And that's great. That's awesome. And we're here for that. But don't forget that it is okay to have those conversations with people who don't have the same beliefs as you, but are willing to hear you out and are willing to accept you for who you are. Allow this time of loneliness to be a time where you can recreate yourself, where you can reprogram yourself to be who you want to be and not who everyone else wants you to be. There is infinite knowledge and abundance in this lifetime and in the next and the next. And let's never forget that. Let's not allow anyone to make us feel like we're insane or that things are always going to be doom and gloom, because my friend, I'm here to tell you that there is light on the other side and that it is a beautiful journey if you allow it to be one. I'm wishing you guys love, light, and healing. See you guys next week.